My name is Leah Pollen, and I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. And like many Americans, I'm concerned about the topic of gun violence. According to CNN, with over 300 million, the United States has more guns per capita than any other country in the world. With that many guns, is it really that surprising that gun violence is such an issue? Some of the statistics are actually quite shocking. On average, 93 people are killed each day with guns, and America's gun homicide rate is 25 times higher than the averages of other developed countries. Recently, it seems that gun violence has hit a critical level, and although there are many serious issues in the world, I'm going to explain to you why I think gun control is the most important crisis facing Americans today. Time magazine reports that in the last 34 years, there have been 82 mass shootings, resulting in 634 people dead and 698 wounded. If you compare these numbers to another country, such as Australia, which has similar cultural values to us, the results are staggering. From the years 1979 to 1996, Australia had a combined total of 13 mass shootings. In 1996, a gunman in Tasmania killed 35 people with a semi-automatic weapon. That event became the turning point for Australia. That year, they created many strict new gun laws that prohibited many types of guns, which in turn reduced the production of guns. They also even made it a crime to use firearms in self-defense. While that may seem outrageous or crazy, the rates for gun suicide and homicides have dropped as a result. Also, there has not been a single mass shooting in the last 20 years. Clearly, these methods are working for the people of Australia. But if they're so effective, why shouldn't we be using them? Well, it's our constitutional right to own guns. And let's face it, Americans love their guns. More specifically, it's the Second Amendment that states, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." While we base most of our laws on the Constitution, could this section be a little outdated? The Bill of Rights was written 225 years ago, when our country was only a few years old. At the time, we didn't have a national military, and were a brand new country still at risk of being taken over by another nation. Most importantly, the only guns available at the time were muskets. If you compare a typical musket, such as the Brown Bess, to a weapon from today, such as the AR-15, you will see a drastic difference. On the left is a Brown Bess, the most commonly used rifle in the American Revolution. You can see the many steps it takes to load it and shoot off just one round. On the other side is the AR-15. In the 46 seconds it took to fire 3 rounds from the musket, the AR-15 was able to shoot off 28 rounds in the same amount of time. Think about how much damage a modern assault rifle can do in a minute. Clearly, our founding fathers were not talking about the machine guns and assault rifles we have accessible to us today. They've become the weapon of choice for mass murderers, and were the guns used in the San Bernardino, Aurora Theater, and Newtown shootings, as well as the Orlando nightclub shooting, which with 49 victims is the most horrific mass shooting in American history. There's a difference between owning a gun that can fire off 4 bullets in a minute and having one that can kill dozens of people in the same amount of time. Of course, the guns themselves are only part of the issue. Making sure our guns are in the right hands is a much larger portion of this problem. The TSA, or the Terrorist Security Administration, has a no-fly list of people who are prohibited from boarding a commercial aircraft for travel into or out of the United States. The people on this list have raised suspicion of possibly being a terrorist or having some association with terrorism. There are over 100,000 individuals on that list, and yet there is no legislation that prevents any of them from buying guns. Omar Mateen, the man who committed the Orlando shooting, was investigated by the FBI twice, but was taken off the no-fly list due to the fact that he had not broken any laws. At any time during or after his investigation was he never prohibited from buying a gun. Clearly, there must be something done to prevent incidents like this from happening again. I had a chance to interview one of my state senators, Jack Reed, about gun control, and he proposed a possible solution.
One of the issues that's very startling is we have a terrorist watch list. We have people on this watch list, but we have not made sure that they could not buy a weapon. So you have the irony where we think there's serious enough threats in the United States, we won't let them get an airplane, but they can buy a weapon. So I think improving the background checks is probably the most immediate and sensible way to reduce violence without interfering with some fundamental rights that Americans have.
The idea of increased background checks is a great idea, but even with more checks implemented, there are still ways to go around them.
To begin, universal background checks. I mean, current law only requires that background checks be performed for gun sales by licensed gun dealers. At least 40% of gun sales take place by private sellers without any background check, no questions asked. And that's a gaping hole that enables felons, dangerously mentally ill, domestic violence abusers to get guns very easily. Again, it does not prevent law-abiding citizens from getting guns.
Loopholes such as buying from a private seller, aka the gun show loophole, account for 40% of purchased guns, or approximately 120 million guns within the United States. If we close this loophole and require universal background checks, we can prevent the wrong people from buying guns and make sure that those law-abiding citizens who want guns can have them. Making sure U.S. citizens stay safe on the streets and not have to worry about going to a movie or to a club or to school is top priority. That is why I believe that gun control is the most pressing issue the new president and Congress should address in 2017.